Mercedes' new engine upgrade just got leaked. So we're going to be going through that in today's video. So make sure you like this video. And if you do want more Mercedes F1 content like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hitting that red button down below. But we're going to start off talking about Mercedes explaining why the W13 is a complicated project. Mercedes F1 has had a very complicated start to the season, with the 2022 single-seater concept that is difficult to exploit. The Brackley team did indeed design a W13 that runs very low to the ground and lacked performance and stability on bumpy tracks. Andrew Shovlin, the team's director of on-track engineering, admits the new regulations have created problems that have never arisen before, with ground effect being less crucial on previous cars. So as you all know, when it comes to what Toto Wolff had to say, he did say they are going to be working on aerodynamics for this car for the French Grand Prix, which may have already happened as the time you're watching this video, and also for the Belgium one. With these regulations, we will in due course go back and consider where we need to put processes and protocols in place to avoid this kind of problem in the future, detailed Shovlin. But this was an issue that we had never had in an aerodynamics of any of the cars we had made before, because none of them had these kinds of floors that work incredibly good when you get them closer to the ground. And the issue wasn't just that, it was also a lot of elements with the conformity of the parts on the car, as well as the incarnation with the aerodynamics. So it became an incredibly complicated question, and we didn't have the tools to see that in the modeling and to predict that, said Shovlin. Shovlin explains that Mercedes could have chosen to develop its car based on the data immediately collected at the start of the season, but the team preferred to understand the concept a little more broadly to be able to better react in the future. So I think it is really honestly interesting to see how Mercedes have adapted to what has been going on. Yes, this may not have been the F1 run that they were expecting, but they are trying to make the most of it. Now, some teams may have seen it coming, some may have reacted quicker than us, but what we focus on is being able to develop the tools we need to move forward in the game. Framework of this regulation. If we had gone back and watched the early races, I think we could have found some fixes that would have made us more competitive in early races. And obviously, you know, this season isn't really looking too likely for Mercedes to actually take the constructors, so I think it will be interesting to see how they combat all of this and just try to do the best they can. But given that these rules are in place for the next 4 years, our aim is to think a little bit longer than the next race or the one after. We are working to have the best development in the category over the next few years, not next 2 years or 3 years, but we're hoping for even more. So it's great to see that they are seeing the long-term effect that they are going to have just by doing these small adjustments moving forward. Yes, you know, Lewis Hamilton may not be racing for us in that coming years, but they're hoping for that when Lewis Hamilton does leave, Mercedes is still a top team. Now, Mercedes' qualifying performance was a slap in the face, says Toto Wolff. Despite having been widely viewed as a decent run in the French Grand Prix, qualifying for a Mercedes F1 team, which have been vying to vent out a way to grapple with the speed of Red Bull and Ferrari, Mercedes F1 team boss Toto Wolff has branded his team performance in French Grand Prix qualifying a slap in the face. Wolff in tandem said that his team have failed to meet expectations. Nevertheless, Mercedes Hamilton finished at 4th, 0.89 seconds behind Leclerc, who took the pole position. On top of that, Russell had been securing his position at 5th, but McLaren's Norris has split the two Mercedes at the very end of Q3. If you did watch it, guys, it was really interesting to see. You know, Russell did put up a great qualifying performance. However, you know, Norris did get lucky and he was able to split the two. In a matter of fact, French Prix's twisty track layout coupled with the smooth surface were expected to help Mercedes, as Mercedes appeared to be struggling for speed in tracks which have long straights like of Austria Grand Prix. Meanwhile, adding that he was expecting to finish within 0.3 seconds of Leclerc's best lap time, Hamilton said the following about the Q3. "My last lap was great. I finished and I thought it was an awesome lap, but I was still 0.9 seconds off the guys ahead. I'm not sure why the gap has a bit bigger than the last two races. They, Ferrari and Red Bull he's referring to, are in their own league performance-wise." Nonetheless, Wolff said his team had failed to meet expectations, adding expectation management is a bit of a thing this year because we are slowly but surely working our way back to the front runners. On a neutral standpoint, Leclerc's performance appears to be far beyond expectation as he finally crackled up a lap time into 1.3 seconds mark, forcing Verstappen and Sainz to push further, but the Red Bull drivers had finished 0.3 and 0.4 seconds behind Ferrari respectively. So it was really great to see, you know, everyone do well in the qualifying. I think Mercedes did a great job. It may not have been the performance performance that Toto Wolff wanted, or, us as Mercedes fans wanted, but I think they still did what they could do, which is honestly fantastic to see. So that's great from their part. Now, Russell urges Mercedes to quit experimenting too much. And this was a bit of an interesting topic, especially, him putting up such a great qualifying performance. So George Russell has urged Mercedes to stop experimenting too much after again struggling in qualifying. Mercedes has been short of pace this year, with the manufacturer's problems often proving to be more evident in qualifying than on race day. In a bid close to the gap to preceders of Red Bull and Ferrari, the Silver Arrows have experimented with setups across the season and brought regular upgrades to the track, a trend that has continued in France. But after failing 1.29 seconds shy of pole sitter Charles Leclerc around the Paul Ricard circuit, Russell suggested Mercedes should consider a change of track. When you're so far off the pace, you want to try everything on your car to try to get close to the gap, said Russell. And maybe that's a lesson for us, that we need to almost focus on ourselves and really focus on trying to get the most out of our car rather than experimenting too much. But we need to experiment at this moment to see what does work and what doesn't. It's a little bit tricky at this moment. Now, I do understand where Russell is coming from this quote, where obviously, sometimes taking that risk of experimenting can actually have a bad effect on you, such as, you not qualifying very well, or, on race day, maybe something bad goes wrong, the engine shuts down, whatever that may be. But on the other hand, when you're in a position that Mercedes is in, where it doesn't really look like you're going to be able to win the Constructors or even the Drivers' Championship, might as well just experiment. Whether you come third or whether you come fourth or fifth, it doesn't really matter at this point. All anyone ever cares about is first place. And if you're not going for that first place, might as well experiment now. So I do understand where George Russell is coming from. Let me know down in the comments what you think. Do you think George Russell is right in saying this, or should they continue to experiment to try to make the car better? Now, Russell began the weekend by suggesting Mercedes had an outside chance at taking its first win of the season. Although this feeling has faded, the Brighton does still expect a stronger Sunday than his one-lap Saturday showing. There's definitely optimism because we feel like we do have a direction to keep chipping away at it, and we don't think that we will make good progress, he added. Qualifying is a day where you have the clearest pace comparison to your rivals, and it's clearly a bit difficult when we see how far we are from pole. But the race is where we need to judge. We do have a faster car than we have done on average this season, and hopefully it is a totally different story this time tomorrow than it is currently. So seeing this all play out, it will be a very interesting race. Like I said, by the time you're watching this video, the race may have happened or it's happening very, very soon. So it is going to be exciting. And, I do want to hear your thoughts on that. Now, Hamilton admits he's already switching focus to next season. Lewis Hamilton shared his thoughts after an underwhelming qualifying session for the Mercedes team at the French Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton has conceded that he is turning his attention to the 2023 F1 season, given the deficit Mercedes still face the frontrunners Red Bull and Ferrari. Now, Hamilton and Mercedes entered the French Grand Prix weekend with high expectations due to smooth nature of the circuit Paul Ricard and the team's run of 4 podium finishes in a row. However, Hamilton finished the best part of a second slower than the pole position time en route to P4 on the grid, starting that Red Bull and Ferrari are in their own league up front. Meanwhile, George Russell had to settle for 6th in the other W13, losing out to McLaren's Lando Norris. While pleased with his own qualifying performance, Hamilton feels Mercedes, armed with more updates, have lost their ground to their rivals this weekend. I was really happy with my lap time at the end. It was a beautiful lap, but it was just a second off. For whatever reason, we seem to be a lot further off this weekend, but the whole pack is. The two top teams are just in their own league, really. Considering I missed FP1, which definitely does put you out on the back foot, I'm really happy with the progress that I made, Hamilton said. He continued to say, everyone back at the factory is working really hard with us to make progress. We came in today and we didn't actually. I think we took a step back today, but going into qualifying, we managed to turn it around. Hamilton then explained how he's trying to learn as many lessons as possible from this year's Mercedes to ensure that his 2023 Challenger is up to scratch. It's not that it's disheartening, it's just you do a lap and then they're like, you're 1.7 off, he continued. Then you do a really good lap and you're 1.1 seconds off and you're like, wow, there's nothing I can do in my power to change that. Of course, everyone's working as hard as they can each weekend. We come with little bits to try and improve, and sometimes it just doesn't make a difference. For sure, that's difficult for everyone. Now, I do see where Lewis Hamilton is coming from. You know, when it comes to you as a driver, there's only so much you can do. Yes, F1 is a very singular sport where there's one driver in the one car, but a lot of people don't understand the team behind the car is what also makes it such a great car as general, and what makes it easier for the driver to win those races. So it's definitely a team effort. It's not only Lewis Hamilton, you need the right engineers around you in order to make that work. And I think it's honestly good to see the difference between Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. As you can tell, George Russell is very, very young, and you know, he wants to win now at all costs, and he doesn't like the experimenting. However, when it comes to Lewis Hamilton, he does look at the long-term effect of everything and decides to learn from this year rather than anything, or this season. Now, of course, you know, like I said, what I'm focused on and what I already said at the beginning of the year, it is just trying to understand this car more. I'm really working closely with the team to say that there are bits that I want from this and bits I want from this car for next year. I'm trying to steer that, so at least hopefully later on this year we get somewhere better, but next year car is one we can fight with. So it is going to be interesting to talk about next year and to see what Mercedes does bring out. I think it is honestly great to see how they have actually, you know, I guess combated all this. I like how Lewis Hamilton has really focused his attention on next year, and I think that's really the only best thing you can do. There's no use of pushing yourself to the limit when you know you're so far away from, you know, Red Bull, from Ferrari, from actually getting that pole position, or, you know, that first place position, sorry. So, you know, it will be interesting to see how this all plays out, guys. Let me know down in the comments what you think. I would love to hear what you guys have to say and what you think about the whole situation. But let me know what you thought of the race of the French Grand Prix, if it's already happened, or, you know, who you think is going to win the race. Give me your top 3, give me your podium. I'd love to hear that. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you soon.